Hello, good morning. Welcome to the Dailies on Echo Television. Today being the 8th of January 2024, we have a number of stories that are going through the paper. From the weekend, we are having an allegation of a transfer to a private account coming from the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs, the sum of over 885 million naira. And then we have a number of stories where we are saying Autumn is also saying that the G5 governors will be supporting President Tinubu in the 2027 presidential election. These and many other stories are what we will be looking at this morning. I am Sarah Elisha Dasham, and I'll be doing the program with Rachel Tanzi. Good morning.
Morning, Sarah.
Yeah, Rachel, you can say I'm on black, I'm black, and a touch of a little color. I mean, we are mourning in Plateau
We
State.
are
I
mourning
mean,
in
it
Plateau
started
State.
on, I think, Friday or so. Down to
Yes.
Saturday, there was a peace walk, and then yesterday there were prayers, and today also there will be prayers, and just to show our own a way of identifying with the genocide that took place from Christmas Eve down to, I mean, New Year. So that is why we're on black, actually. Rachel is also having a touch of black
I'm
over
having a
there.
touch of black,
Of
but I
course.
must confess it actually skipped my mind. I'm fully aware of it, but then I didn't think to represent in that way. But then, Stella, it's really a sad thing, and I am happy for this peace walk because it started getting to a point that it seems like killings around the country was more just about numbers. Like we just were losing the human part of us, like humanity was getting lost gradually because there wasn't much mourning for life lost. It's like, okay, this place was raided. Kaduna became like almost every single time, and nobody really cared. And just for the few people that will call and make mention of their grievances and all of that, and so much happening across the country, and then for us to see something like this coming up is really important, that we are mourning and we will never stop. We refuse to get used to innocent lives being lost. We refuse to let certain things slide as if lives weren't lost. These are not chickens, these are not cows, these are human beings, future of tomorrow, life being lost, talents and ideas now in the grave and all of that. So I hope we will keep, I'm not praying for more of this to happen, but the security of Nigeria seems to be where it is. And I'm just hoping that we will keep having peace walks, even if nothing happens, to just keep reminding the government that more needs to be done, and we will continue to mourn the lives that have been lost.
It's quite a sad one, Richard. Just like you said, I mean, I think was it Friday or so, you and I were talking about the fact that it's becoming like normal. I mean, killings in Zamfara,
Yeah.
killings in Kaduna, killing in Borno, killing in Taraba. Yesterday, the governor was also talking about steps that they are taking in Taraba to see that, you know, the lives that were being lost there, what they need to now. We're saying here in the Plateau State, I mean, from Friday, Saturday, and then until today, there will be a walk. And then, I mean, this is a way, just like we said, to identify with people. And we hope that, just like you said, it's not just about us wearing black on black to show that we're mourning, no. But we hope that the government will actually take up responsibility to
Yes.
say, you know what, these are lives of people, and then we shouldn't just go to, I mean, life continues as normal. No, life will not continue as normal as far as we don't do the right thing. So we hope that this will be a wake-up call
Yes.
to our government, not just in Plateau State, but all over the country, to
True.
realize that, you know what, you need to protect life and property, because that is the first mandate you have. I mean, if you don't do that, I mean, what are you doing in your own state? So we hope to see more proactive measures coming from our government. Well, Rachel, will go quick into the paper, and starting with the Nation newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, President orders probe of alleged 545 million naira fraud in the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry. AFCC didn't take any document away from our office, says Dangote. Foreign airlines get $61.64 million forex backlog. You can find details on page 15. And this is quite very low compared to how much backlog we have. Over 700 million, and we are seeing 61.64 million in forex. I just hope that the federal government does more. If not, we are still going to be in trouble 2024. Supreme Court waterways belong to federal government. You can find details on page 7. Tinubu approves 12 billion naira outstanding payments to Super Eagles and others. The big story on the paper, 21 governorship appeals for hearing at Supreme Court this week. Adebutu versus Abiodun to come up Thursday. Judgment likely on Kano and Lagos Friday. You can start with the details on the front page. Foreign investors double stakes in Nigerian market. Stock market records largest turnover in 3 years. State, federal government on collision course over shareholding in oil firms. We have the NGFDG governors always kept in the dark. You can find more details on page 8. And at the downside of the paper, police target 59 billion naira from vehicle registration. Lagos to enforce laws strictly. More details can be found on page 26. That's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at the Voice of Liberty newspaper. Betty Edo illegal 585 million naira palliative payment under investigation. This is coming from the presidency, and we see that presently, the special assistant on media and publicity to the minister have actually said that the 585 million payment for the vulnerable group is following some due process, and he said that the payment was actually made because the fellow which the money was being transferred to, talking about, the name of the individual that the money was being transferred to was Onyeyelu Bridget. And they said that the reason the money was in her account was because the fellow is currently serving as the project accountant of grants for vulnerable groups. But Rachel, of course, you and I know that this is not one of those stories that will be swept under the carpet. We're seeing that the opposition party that's talking about the PDP are calling for the sack of the minister because they say the longer she stays in that office, they get provoked by that. But then, Rachel, we are tired of all of this. And these are ministers that are not even up to a year yet in office. And we are beginning to see issues. From last week, we saw issues of funds being in private accounts and all of that. And we just hope, even though the president have actually spoke, he's made mention of the fact that they are still going to investigate this, and then sanction will be taken if she is found guilty. And we hope to see that, because we are looking forward to a government that will work on transparency and integrity. This is an office that already we are having the former minister. She's supposed to meet with the EFCC because we saw funds that were used during COVID, and then I wonder which students were being fed during that time where everybody was at home. And we're saying that she said she was ill, that is why she was unable to go meet the EFCC. But I hope that when she gets better, we will not see that this will not be another story that will be pushed under the carpet. She should answer to tell Nigerians what did she use these funds for. And I think beyond us seeing that they are being persecuted, they should refund back the money. They should refund back the money, because these are money that we're borrowing. Richard, if you look at our debt, is already getting almost to 95 trillion naira as it is presently. So what are we saying? So I'm hoping that beyond saying let them pay, they should face the full wrath of the law. We keep saying the rule of law it doesn't respect, it's no respect of anybody, regardless of what your position is. If you are found guilty, you should face the full wrath of the law. And this is a very young lady. She's in her prime, talking about the youth and women being represented, and I hope that she will not be found guilty after investigation. But if she is guilty of whatever it is, she should actually dance to the drum of the law eventually.
Stella, it's too early for this kind of scandal whatsoever. I believe that there are certain mistakes that shouldn't be made whatsoever, and then for us to see that the few percentage of women representing the whole Nigerian women in the government and then in ministry, and then these kinds of problems have to start from Better Edu. It's concerning on a lot of level. And just as you said, you're very young. I believe that you should do things differently. Young people are trying to capture Nigeria and say, you know what, we are capable of being the future leaders of Nigeria. It means you should walk on eggshell in your dealings, in your ministry. You should be extremely careful, even when you are not supposed to be careful, because this is too new for all of that. And the concern here is that not only is where this money being taken to a private account, there are also questions to some spendings, because that is the problem. When this kinds of thing comes out, you find out that other things that shouldn't even be a problem becomes a problem automatically. You start revealing other things, and then more questions will now start being asked. How did you spend it? And there are already questions rising concerning some expenditure done by the minister that she needs to explain and is unreasonable for a certain reason and all of that. So I just hope that the needful needs to be done. The quicker the better, because we shouldn't be sleeping, and this shouldn't slide. It's not one of those things that should slide, because I kept on saying that, first of all, looking at the 2024 budget, little have been given for a budget that is tagged renewed hope and then poverty alleviation. We're looking at money being given for poverty alleviation, not even up to $1 trillion. We're looking at barely above 500 billion naira. And then you see that there's no room for mismanagement of fund. You are in an office that you need to reach people. Therefore, you can't mismanage, for you don't have the luxury. Nobody should have the luxury to mismanage funds in Nigeria, and you, better edu, don't have that luxury, especially because you need to reach the poor and vulnerable. And I believe that there is a way the government does things. You can't just carry that kind of money and send because this person is a no.
But I have a question with, why is it in a private account?
Why
These
is
are
it in a
public
private
funds, so
account?
it should be in the account meant for that
It's
vulnerable
already a
people.
red
And then
flag.
immediately we should hear people in Akwa Ibom, Cross River, because it's for those people there getting the
There's a
money.
way things are being done, and then this shouldn't be. It shows like we always show ourselves like we don't know what we are doing, Celia, and this is the thing that concerns me the most, because these stories don't just stop in Nigeria. They fly out of the country, because we have international news agencies in the country trying to capture what is happening in some of the big countries in Africa, and Nigeria is one of those countries, whether we like it or not, we are. And so it doesn't stop in Nigeria, it goes outside. And then we keep seeing things that it makes me wonder, what is our representation out there? Like, we don't know what we're doing. That is the picture we keep painting to the outside world. So I just hope that the probe is being done like very well, and then something, refund seller should be made. Nobody should go scot-free. Correct your mistake, refund back the money, and let's move. We need to start feeling your impact.
No, Rachel, I'm not going to say much again. Let me just hold on here
Yes.
and wait and see what the outcome of that investigation is going to look like. Still on the Voice of Liberty, we have Abuja rising insecurity. Bandits demand 60 million naira for 6 abducted children. You can find detail of that in the paper. CSU expressed outrage over alleged Edu's palliative scandal. And we have there's increasing poverty, insecurity, political conflict across the land, coming from the Northern CSU telling Tinubu. The Conference of Northern State Civil Society Network has, at the weekend in Kano, lamented the increasing spate of poverty, hunger, insecurity, and political conflict in Nigeria. You can find more detail of the story in the paper. Tinubu hails NNPCL boss Kyari on birthday anniversary. Keep an eye on poverty elevation, school feeding fund. APC Chief Tiles urges Tinubu. Of course, looking at the scandal we had, of course, an eye should be kept there to be sure that the children are being well fed, not that the money is being disbursed and then we're seeing that they are not well taken care of. Still on the Voice of Liberty, on 2024, OPC restate commitment to regional restructuring. And on Renew Hope, Tinubu clears 12 billion naira outstanding payment for Super Eagles and others. More detail found in the paper. And that's all on Voice of Liberty.
On the Punch newspaper, lawmakers budget fresh 30 billion naira for National Assembly renovation. Army redeploys 206 generals, cancels 120 postings. Details can be found on page 8. Nigeria's luckiest woman gifted land for 4:50 a.m. cooking, and this is for Numzi. You can find more details on page 4 and 5. Still on the Better Edu case, Tinubu vows sanction as anger grows over 585 million naira scandal. President will take appropriate punitive actions against infractions, says the federal government. Airlines get $62 million as CBN repays banks $2 billion debt. You can find details on page 26. Quadruplet mom leaves hospital after Tampolo's firm pays 4 million naira bill. Manufacturers may sack workers as naira loses 39%. We have a picture story. School resumes today after Christmas holiday, so we can see students with their luggages going back to school, and that's all news on the Punch newspaper.
Right, let's take a look at the next paper, which is the Daily Times newspaper. CBN disburses $61 million to foreign airlines to settle mature foreign exchange backlog. Still on Daily Times, the big story on the alleged 44 billion naira fraud. PDP demands Bet Edu sack prosecution. Federal government bows to pressure orders Minister Edu's investigation. We didn't honor Edu's request, says the Accountant General of the Federation. So now this call for a lot of questions. You can find that story on page 4 and 5. Also, we have Supreme Court affirm federal government exclusive control of nations, inland and waterways. Why killing may persist in Plateau, others by Dogara. You want to know why he felt it might persist and what can be done about that? You can do out read that story on page 2. And coming from the former governor of Benue State, Autumn, he said PDP G5 governors will support Tinubu in the 2027. NIMED predict 3-day sunshine haziness from Monday, so you look well for that. You can find that story also on page 2. And coming from Dangote, we are prepared to assist EFCC investigation on Emifede's forest transaction. You can find more detail of that on page 11. We have a picture story showing us a colorful display of Katungo Chiefdom's cultural heritage at the Katungo Cultural Festival in Gombe State. You can see the beautiful way of showing our culture and tradition. You can do well to grab the paper in more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On the Abuja Inquirer, we have Better Gate, Beyond Rhetoric, Fire Edo. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 4. The big story on the paper, how insecurity, banditry fuels overcrowding in FCT schools. Schools resort to core members, PTA teachers to bridge gap. Abuja votes 13.1 billion naira for toilets, furniture for schools. You can find more details inside the paper. Abducted Abuja children, bandits demand 60 million naira. You can find more details on page 3. We have a picture story showing the finance minister Edun visiting the first lady, and that's all the news on the Abuja Inquirer.
You know, Rachel, I'm also quite afraid. I mean, as schools are resuming and then looking at what the big story is on the paper, saying about how insecurity and banditry has felt, there's overcrowding in school. We know that there's supposed to be a number of students per teacher so that there will be good teaching going on flow and all of that. But then with the increase of it, and then that is to tell us that we're still going back to the issue of we're having shorthand of teachers in the school. That is just what it entails, because with more students, there is need for more teachers. And then you and I remember, anytime I talk about issues like this, I can't help but remember when I was a core member, and then quite a number of these government schools depend so much on core members to teach. The moment there are no core members, there are no teachers in the school. And we're talking about basic subjects such as math and English that is needed. If you don't have it, you can't even, any course whatsoever. I mean, back where then that you don't need math to maybe study mass communication or so. But right now, you need it. You need it. Or if you're going to statistics or any of these things. So we just hope that this is an eye-opener. If this is happening in the FCT, and then we're having, I mean, the pictures we're having of schools going back are talking about GSS Duse in Abuja. So quite a number of schools actually resume Saturday, Sunday, and down till today. A lot of schools will be resuming. So I am hoping that this will be an eye-opener right now. We need the Ministry of Education to actually step into action. We need more recruitment of teachers in the school. If you are depending on core members and PTA teachers, and that's more like having contracts, also to say, Richard, they will not be there permanently. And we know there's a way it affects the learning of students when they have different hands coming in. So I hope that this will be an eye-opener actually. And then beyond the teacher, we also need security in these various schools, because my heart beats. You can't just imagine students are supposed to be schooling maybe in Plateau, in Balkos, or we're talking about University of Kefi, Nasara. There was where we had issue of students being kidnapped and all of that. So This is just few out of the many other schools that actually need to be attended to. So I hope that the government of the state and also the federal government will put their heads together. Let us see that we have more teachers, and let us see that we provide security that the student needs, so that can actually be comfortably while receiving learning. Imagine student being in class and then wearing short knickers under their skirt just in case something happens. I mean, that's not how we want them to learn. So we hope more will be done regards that.
And so, like, if schools are depending on core members and then PTA, then it also means that the quality of education in all of those various schools are even below 50, because we are now looking at students being trained by people who are not teachers, by people who are not professionals, because we know that, of course, it's not every core member that is being posted to a school actually read education. It's just all the factors, most of them, it's all the factors where it's more about where accepts more core members, and then a lot of them are being posted there just for you to have a place of primary assignment. So we are also having people who are not trained or qualified teachers teaching, and no matter how good you are, when it comes to teaching, you have to be qualified and you have to be trained. You can't be as effective as a qualified or trained teacher. So now we are looking at not only congestion, we're also looking at automatically, if these classes are congested, it means facilities are not enough. Access to whatever science lab that is available at the primary school, secondary school level for experiments and tests and all of that, whatever it is, the facilities and the equipment and the tools that these students are needing, it means it will also be short, because now we are looking at congestion. So we are seeing a quality of education that we can argue with anywhere below 50%. It can't be above that. It's definitely below average. So, I mean, this calls for a lot of work. I mean, we always talk about these things. It reveals that there's so much work needed. There's so much funding needed. There is need for more government schools in cities and in our metropolitan areas, so that by the time we have these displaced people, they also have a place to school, and there won't be congestion, because leaving rural areas to urban areas for education should be normal and common, even without insecurity and displacement.
Of course,
so there, yes, exactly. So there is need for more of that to accommodate people that will leave those areas to come to the city to get better education.
Well, we look forward to seeing that all of these facilities will be provided, Rachel. Well, let's take a look at another paper before we arrive for a break, and that's talking about the New Telegraph newspaper, where we have on the 2024 budget, financial institutions to make 30.14 billion naira from government agency. You can find more detail of that story inside the paper. CBN releases $61.64 million for forex obligation to foreign airlines. And we have Supreme Court affirms federal government exclusive control of nation's inland waterways. Tunji Ojo launches online passport application portal. Also on talking about the police recruitment, physical credential screening for 416,270 applicants begin nationwide. We hope that more screening will be done so we don't have issues of what happened during the recruitment of the army, where people are claiming to be indigenous of one state while they are from another state. Nigeria boosting OPEC December oil production by extra 50,000 barrels per day. This is a report you can find in the paper. Still on the issue of Bet Edu's scandal, Tinubu orders probe of controversial 585 million naira transfer request. Apologize, quit, Falana tells the minister. Her continuous stay in office provocative, says the PDP. You can find that story on page 2 and 4. 5 dead, 30 rescued in River Niger boat mishap. And then we're seeing that many cheat dead in Oyo as truck firms into houses. You can find more of that story on page 5 and 6. Nigeria, Saudi Arabia sign memorandum of understanding on 2024 Hajj. Why zoning is cardinal in Edo Guba poll by Onulememe. You can find that story on page 9 and 10. And then we have Adeboye says there is money in Nigeria, only in the wrong hands. You can find that story on page 2. And on jet fuel, new prices may spike the cost. You can find more of that on page 3 and 17. And downside, we have a study that says high fat diet tied to immune, intestinal, and brain health risks. So you can do well to read that study on page 27. And that's all a new Telegraph newspaper. But before we continue with other paper analysis, we would love to take a time out so we can give you the opportunity to chew the stories. Drop your comment on our Facebook and YouTube, and when we come back, we will continue with the paper analysis. Please stay tuned with us.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions. We want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Welcome back. If you're just tuning in, it's still the Dailies on Equa Television. We have been looking at a number of stories following the scandal of the Humanitarian Affairs Minister of about 585 million naira, where we see that the president have called for investigation. Also, we're seeing the former governor of Benue State, Governor Otom, saying the fact that the G5 governors will be supporting Tinubu in 2027, and then quite a number of stories that are on the paper. So we will love to hear your own, thoughts about that. You can drop that on our Facebook and YouTube, and then we'll do well to read them as they drop. I still have Rachel Tanzi with me. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, sir.
All right, let's continue with the paper, looking at the Nigerian News Direct newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, federal government approves 12 billion naira to clear outstanding payment for Super Eagles and others. 17,000 residents benefiting daily from Oyo government subsidized transport daily. This is coming from the PTS chairman, and this is on palliatives in Oyo State. Tinubu orders probe into alleged 585 million naira financial misappropriation rocking humanitarian ministry. The big story on the paper, CBN clears additional $61.64 million forex backlog to foreign airlines. More details can be found on page 9. 5 dead as boat capsizes in River Niger. Stocks grow by 6.54% in the first week of 2024. You can find details inside the paper. We have a picture story where we can see the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, and others, and that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On the Metrics newspaper, CBN disburses $61 million to settle foreign airlines trap fund. Foreign airlines to begin sales of tickets in US dollars. You can find detail of that story on the front page and also on page 3. And on 2027, PDP G5 throws weight behind Tinubu. Why can't a seasoned administrator like President Tinubu rule us for 8 years? Coming from Autumn, you can read more detail of what he have to say about that. The big story is still on the 585 million naira scandal. Presidency talks tough to probe Edo's ministry. We have a number of riders here where we are seeing, among which Falana tells a 37-year-old minister to resign for betraying Nigerians. Serap seek timely persecution of those involved in the scandal. You can find more detail of that story on page 2. And on the 2024 budget, federal government to spend 776 million naira on affordable housing. More detail found on page 11. Nigerians should embrace agriculture, support to boost GDP. This is coming from the NAHCO. And then on the PDP primary, more politicians step down for Agodalu. You can find more of that on page 15. NUC releases list of universities under investigation following up those fake certificates. You can find detail of that on page 15. Federal government leaves Super Eagles morale clears outstanding salaries. And on tragedy, we have death toll in Anambra. Boat mishap hits 838, rescue says NIWA. You can find more detail of that in the paper. We have a picture story here where we have a condolence visit. The former Vice President of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osibanjo, and his wife paid a condolence visit to the family of the late governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, in Ibadan. And also we're seeing that the former Vice President and the wife were received by his wife, Mrs. Betsy, and the widow of the late governor of Ondo State. You can find more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On First News newspaper, G5 will support Tinubu in 2027. A statement coming from Otom declares president as a seasoned administrator. And on Edo 2024, Afebwas, let's unite Edo agenda excise citizens. Why we picked Fubara as River Guba candidate, Wike finally opens up. Deputy Speaker to unknown Southeast gunmen, drop your guns, negotiate with Nigerian government. The big story, 585 million naira scandal. Tinubu orders probe of minister threatens sanctions. As PDP demands better Edu's prosecution, says her continuous stay in office provocative. Serap threatens to sue president if Edu escapes prosecution. Falana cautions embattle minister to stop insulting Nigerians. Still on the paper, $3.4 billion forex allocation probe Dangote opens up, deplores EFCC's raid, insists no accusations of wrongdoing made against us, declares anti-graft agency's action embarrassing. We didn't distribute cash to the National Assembly members during the yearly tithe coming from the presidency. Report ranks Nigeria 22nd country with cheapest petrol. Governor Fintiri Bindo boss Mustafa Malafa orders back TG News Honor Award. Airstrikes killed 12 terrorists and destroyed storage base in Borno State. And at the downside of the paper, CBN disburses $61.64 million to airlines, and that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, how Kanu can be speedily released, coming from the Deputy Speaker. You can find detail of how on page 5. And still on the alert fund diversion, we're saying that the federal government is going to probe the ministry, so you can look up that story on page 6 and 25. Forex probe, we have EFCC raid designed to cause unwarranted embarrassment, coming from Dangote. CBN spent $2 billion to settle Forex forward. Foreign airlines get $61.64 million. NDLEA naps female bandit supplier with catch of ammunition, 11 others over 3 tons of illicit drugs. You can find detail on page 4. Also, we have Naira scarcity persists, inflation soar. Nigerians groan over the high prices of food, medicine, and others. You can find detail of that on page 2. We have Supreme Court from federal government exclusive control of inland waterways. Detail found on page 5. We have a picture story where we have the governor of Lagos State, his wife, and also others during the New Year Thanksgiving service at Tafawa Balewa Square, Lagos yesterday. And that's all on Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Guardian newspaper, federal government in fiscal dilemma over high inflation, low revenue, and foreign exchange crisis. And we have an infograph showing inflation rate at 28.2% and a budget of 28.7 trillion naira. We have CBN pays airlines additional $61.64 million stock funds. You can find details on page 2. Tinubu orders probe of Edu Humanitarian Ministry over 37 billion naira and 535 million naira funds. 5 dead, 30 others rescued as boat capsizes in River Niger. 3.4 billion naira debt Oyo AG false marking day per city of funds claim. You can find details on page 3. PDP accuses Kwara senators, reps of diverting federal government rights. Supreme Court affirms states have no regulatory powers on inland waterways. Worsening insecurity, Ayeoku blames killing on non-persecution of perpetrators. You can find details on page 6, and that's all news on the Guardian newspaper.
On this day newspaper, CBN pays $2.062 billion additional forex forward with banks. And then we have disburses $61.64 million to foreign airlines. Nigerian stock market outperformed global peers in the first trading week of 2024 with 2.68 trillion naira returns. You can start reading on the front page and continue on page 12. And also we have 2027 polls not in focus for Atiku, Obi, Kwankwaso and others. Detail found on page 12. A strong signal to the MDA's Tinubu probes Edu over public money paid into private accounts. You can find more in the paper. We still have the pictures to showing us Lagos State New Year Thanksgiving service. You can grab the paper and read more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian Tribune, PDP governors and WC divided over zoning ahead of Edo governorship primaries. Furore over federal government grains palliative, how senators supplied grains while awaiting funds. Federal government only gave offer letter to contractors, not money. PDP G5 will support Tinubu in 2027, Otom says. CBN disburses additional $61.4 million FX backlog to foreign airlines. Nigeria boosts OPEC December crude oil production by extra 50,000 barrels per day. NBET paid over 2 trillion naira to Gencos in 5 years. This is coming from NESI. This is a report that you can find details on page 6. Supreme Court grants NIWA exclusive right to control Nigeria's inland waterways. The big story on the paper, Better Edu, Tinubu directs probe. More details can be found on page 21. Kogi government to unveil new Ohinoyi of Ibira land out of 70 contestants. Forex probe, EFCC didn't take any document from our office coming from the Dangote group. 5 dead, 30 rescued as boat capsizes in Anambra State. More details can be found on page 26. NDLEA intercepts Kolo's consignment in boxing kits on New Year Day. Banks to face probe over forex deals. This is still on the Emefiele's case. Probe to cover 9-year period. More details can be found on page 21. Free train ride, passengers lament, NRC speaks, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
On the Vanguard newspaper, we have tackled increased cases of killing. It's taxing the federal government. You can find that on page 11. And also, we are having Naira note scarcity, crunch worsen, banks ration cash across the counter. Customers frustrated as some banks shut ATM. POS operators jack up charges, say they are sourcing cash outside the banks. Uni Ilori Covenant University say no fake professor on payroll. You can see that that has given rise to, interrogation of various lecturers we're having. So you can look up that story on page 8. And then we have EFCC visit Dangote explains, assure stakeholders. You can find detail on page 26. Also, we have on sports, we're counting down to AFCON 2024, where we have NFF to Super Eagles win AFCON and pocket 32 million naira bonus each. So we look forward to seeing if they will do us proud and actually pocket that money. We have other column for other smaller stories. You can do well to grab the paper, read more detail of any other story that is of interest to you.
On the Blueprint newspaper, airstrike kills 12 terrorists, destroys storage base in Borno State. Investors gain 2.7 trillion naira in 1 week. AFCC only visited, didn't raid our head office, coming from Dangote. Anxiety as Yahya Bello moves to unveil Ohinoyi of Ibira land. The big story, G5 governors will back Tinubu in 2027, coming from Otom. I have no regret supporting Southernand for president, a statement coming from Wike. You can find details on page 6. Tinubu's 12 billion naira approval for national teams will spur Eagles, and I wonder why we have to wait to pay them their remaining salaries. I mean, it's high time we stop seeing this kind of attitude from our government. You can find details on page 31. Interior Minister launches online passport application portal today. Tinubu order probe of Better Edu's ministry over 585 million naira infractions. You can find details inside the paper. We have a picture story where we can see the ceremony for the ratification of the Pilgrims Affair Agreement for the year 1445 AH, and that's all the news on Blueprint newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at the leadership newspaper where we have EFCC took no document filed from our office. This is still coming from Dangote. 5 died, 30 rescued in Anambra boat mishap. You can find that story on page 24. And on fact check, we have is any Afenifere chief tied in race for Ondo governorship? That's a question. And what's trending, we have Tinubu clears allowances of Super Eagles and others. Detail found on page 2. CBN settles $2 billion forex forward with banks. Detail found on page 7. And we have on 2027, politics begins. Opposition hint at merger to form mega party. Atiku Obi Kwankwaso focus on building formidable structure. Wike G5 reactivated, seeks support for Tinubu presidency. Loyalists pay allegiance to Rivers ex-governor. You can find detail of that politics on page 4. Varsities deny engaging fake professors. You can find that on page 7. And also we have Nigeria, Saudi Arabia sign agreement on 2024 Hajj. And we have the Federal Agri Organization warns against escalating food prices. You can find that on page 12. We still have the picture story showing us students of Government Girls Secondary School do say back to school after the Christmas and New Year holidays in Abuja yesterday. And that's all on leadership newspaper.
On Daily Independent, PDP, Labour Party, NNPP considering merger for 2027 election. ASU president links fake foreign degrees to underfunding of varsities. Slams private varsities over indiscriminate award of first-class degrees. The big story, 2024 budget experts warn federal government over exaggerated assumptions. The writer under the story, see foreign loans boosting forex supply soon. Rising insecurity, Afenifere urges Tinubu to call for meeting of local leaders. Leads how to tackle increasing terrorism and banditry. Dangote clarifies EFCC's visit to office amid FX investigation. NACO rules out upward review of safety threshold rates for airlines. Kogi government to unveil new Ohinoyi of Ibera land among 70 aspirants. 5 die as boat capsizes in River Niger. Tinubu orders probe over transfer of 585.2 million naira grant into private account. Improper payment, diversion of public funds should be punished. A statement coming from Sarah. 2024 will be year of enforcement of laws, says Sanwo-Olu, and that's all the news on Daily Independent newspaper.
Another story is in ASU president links fake foreign degrees to underfunding of universities. I hope we grow beyond having a reason why certain things are happening. Rather, let us look at how we can avoid this. Because, I mean, it's either they are blaming the Nigerian Universities Commission, blaming Ministry of Education, blaming all of this, that in the crave for a lot of students just want to have the certificate. And I'm saying that beyond us looking at the certificate, this even tells us that we should start from home. We should look within. It seems as if there are a lot of people that have been buying. We should go down to our leaders. There have been a lot of buying of results and all of that. So we hope that beyond pointing the finger and giving the reason why this thing is happening, let us look at how we can avoid it from happening totally.
I mean, Stella, this statement from ASU is indicting in a lot of states. Why would you as ASU come out and give reasons on behalf of these universities? Are you trying to say you're aware of what is happening? that you know why they are doing it. Because if you're coming to say underfunding, then it means these varsities have told you we are issuing fake results and fake certificates because we lack the money. And just as you said, Sele, we should grow above certain things. Standard is standard. You have no reason whatsoever giving out fake results out there. You enroll students, they go through school, they pass, and you give them their certificate. You set a standard that you have no reason whatsoever to break it. Because if you are giving a fake, for instance, a medical certificate, imagine the lives you're about to kill. So what is your excuse? That the person gave you 500,000 or $1 million naira. So you want to tell me that the 50 and more lives that are about to die in the hands of that man are, just $1 million naira. Collapsing, exactly, and people losing their life. You have no reason whatsoever. This is one of the things that I find it, amazed that ASU will come out and defend these varsities. Then it means you are in the know of it, and then you should answer for it in the first place. So this is totally something that we shouldn't even see happening in the country whatsoever.
Of course, Rachel. Well, let's take a look at the Wall of Business on Business Day newspaper, where we have Nigerians' debt to hit 95 trillion naira, up 8-fold in 10 years. Federal government borrows 2.9 trillion naira from CBN under Tinubu. Block tax loopholes to boost revenue, Ruwani advises. You can find detail of that inside the paper. And we have 3 million banks account face sanction as BVN NIN deadline nears. Nigerians pick their mind on Dangote first half raid and headquarters raid rather. And we have what to expect as passport automation takes off today. No accusation of wrongdoing made against us, says Dangote. We have a picture story here coming from EFCC saying, drop something is telling me to drop it, where we are having a number of things that the EFCC is checking into. So you can do out to read more of that. And we have inside the Afrexbank NNPC, the $3.2 billion loan. You can turn to page 29 and read more detail of that story. And that's all on Business Day newspaper.
On Sporting Sun newspaper, starting with the big story because it caught my attention. Super Eagles to pocket $35,000 each for AFCON win. And I like to say, Sele, no wonder they perform better in their club.
They should.
Because this 35,000 might sound like a lot, but it's nothing compared to what these guys make in Europe. It doesn't compare to what they make on a weekly basis and then monthly basis, and then you look at for a whole tournaments, a big one such as African Cup of Nations, and then they're early. I wouldn't be surprised if they're kicked out after the group stage or even the knockout stage, round of 16.
Rachel,
and all
let's
of
just
that.
wish them all the best.
I mean, I
end
can't
well.
help. You understand? You wonder why are they so amazing at the club level, and then when you come, you wonder if these are the same people
that actually
are actually elsewhere. And then this money is not as motivating as what
they actually
receive. But either way, it's more about being a patriotic Nigeria. It's like putting Nigeria on that map continuously. So I just hope that they look beyond this money and look at making history for themselves then for Nigeria. You can find details on page 6. Salah gets fresh haircut ahead of AFCON. Leicester City boss Iheanacho yet to reach full fitness. You can find details on page 6. Will be confident Super Eagles can go far. Mbappe give up £69 million bonus to quit PSG. Barca increases John Felix salary by 900%. De Bruyne shines on return after 5 months out. Osimhen will be shine for ruthless Super Eagles. You can find details on page 6. Nadal withdraws from Australian Open with muscle injury. Odegaard explains Arsenal recent poor run of form. You can find more details on page 2. Chelsea to pay 120 million euros Osimhen release clause. You can find details on page 6, and that's all the news on Sporting Sun newspaper.
Well, Rachel, thank you so much for doing this
You're
with
welcome,
me.
Sarah.
And thank you also to our viewers for watching us and also always supporting us on the program, The Dailies. Until we come your way, do have a blessed day ahead. Bye for now.